Call this meeting to order at 7:03. Laconia, the City of Laconia, City Council Special Budget Meeting, May 15th, 2023. The hour is 7:03. We're meeting in the Baltic Council Chambers. Before we go any further, Councilor Cheney, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are joined by the recording secretary, Katie. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Counselor Cheney?
Here.
Counselor Susie?
Here.
Counselor Littman?
Here.
Counselor Haynes?
Here.
Counselor Felch?
Here. Just two things. Before we get started, the mayor is traveling, St. Louis. His daughter graduated yesterday, and he is at this time traveling. At the end of this budget meeting, we do have some housekeeping chores after, just so, it shouldn't take long, but we're gonna have to recall memories about the,
Our age.
about our non-public. So, we are joined by Kurt, our city manager, and Glenn Smith, our finance director and IT, I guess. Anyways, we're gonna just deviate just a little bit, and Fire Chief Tim Jubert is going to give his presentation. Chief?
Thank you for having me tonight. This is my first presentation, so I'm pretty excited about it. I pretty much hit some of the high topics for the budget. Also some information about this past year, some good things that have taken place, just to make you aware. Everything that you're seeing today is also a printed copy that you have. Everybody ready? So I just want to make you aware of what our service philosophy is. I think that's what drives us. The first bullet is do your best. Second, do what's right. Then you got to always include the golden rule: treat people the way that you want to be treated. And last but not least, we always ask ourselves, what's in the best interest of the people we serve? So when we make our decisions and how we act, this is what we follow. Some just additional information on the makeup of the fire department. In the box, I'm not going to read it, just kind of shows you our staffing levels right now. As far as the administration, the shift personnel, and some part-time individuals that we have. To the left of that, there's just some highlights that I'd like to discuss quickly. In January, we added 4 additional staff to the floor, which has been incredible as far as what we can do and handle operationally. We have 2 members right now currently completing their paramedic training, getting ready to test. We have 1 member starting paramedic training. We certified 9 members in ICE rescue. We have 1 member currently attending the New Hampshire Supervisors Academy, and 2 members attending Lakes Leadership, which graduates, I believe, next week. Some statistical data as far as runs, just a 3-year average, we're right around 4,600. In 2021, we kind of had a quick spike, and I think we're trending in the right direction. So going into the budget and some line increases, I really focused on the ones that had more than $1,000 for an increase, and just wanted to discuss quickly what those are. The first one is line 445105, which is extra duty coverage. One of the things that I've identified within our organization is succession planning. We're struggling with succession planning right now, and as the leader of the organization, my goal is to make sure that we have people in the right positions to take other positions when people retire. We don't want to lose that institutional knowledge. It's very, very valuable. So one of the things that I would like to do is send a few people to the New Hampshire Supervisors Academy. We're doing that right now with someone in administration. And that is a prerequisite for Certified Public Manager, which is an accredited program put on by the state of New Hampshire. So we're looking for additional funding in that line to pay people to take those classes. Line number 445375, it's Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid Association. We did have an increase. That increase was due to their funding formula and an increase in their 2023 operating budget. The next line, 445304, outside contracted services. I have three things that I really like to try to accomplish that are outside your normal routine maintenance. The first is professional carpet cleaning. The second floor is the living quarters of the personnel, so they bring all kinds of nasty stuff from people's homes and the floors up to the living space, so, and on the first floor as well. So we'd like at least once a year or every other year to try to have a company come in, professionally clean and disinfect. The next is air duct cleaning. It hasn't been done since the renovation and the station's been built. So it's something that we're looking at, and it's very expensive. I know the PD recently has had it done, so we've spoken about that. And the last is the replacement of a backflow preventer. I know that's very important to the water department. I get to sit on some meetings, and every time they say you have to test your backflow. Ours has failed a couple times, and we have a feeling that it might happen again, and it might need to be replaced, which has a large expense. So those are things that are just outside of your routine maintenance that we deal with. And the others are, yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Council Lippman. No.
Is there a problem with the backflow preventer? First I've heard of that failing in all my time on the council.
So what's happening is there's a relief valve on it that keeps on letting go. So it pressurizes, it opens up, and the water starts flooding the water room and the sprinkler room. And it's had to be reset twice. So I've talked to the water department about that, and they come and help us out with it. They don't believe it'll be able to be repaired again after that.
Sounds like a defective product, not a,
Yeah, it could be. It's been there since the station has been renovated, so.
that's, I've never heard of them failing at the rate of, this would be the third one in 10 years?
No, it hasn't officially failed yet, because we were able to reset that valve inside that backflow preventer. They don't think they can do it again if it happens again. The water department. Yep,
Go ahead,
okay,
Chief.
perfect, thank you. And the last is some other increases that we have, light and power, heating and fuel, maintenance and equipment, station repairs, supplies, and uniform allowance. Things are just getting more expensive. As far as EMS goes, it's a separate budget for us. We have two increases, one in medical supplies, which are disposable, and one for medical equipment. Medical equipment has just gotten really, really, really expensive. In the last year, there's an average of a 12% increase in everything that we pretty much purchase nationwide. So that's the reason for those two increases. Just some CIP information. We're attempting to replace a 1991 Sutphen engine. It's 32 years old. The goal is to replace it with a twin to our newest engine, which is at the Weirs. And the goal is to improve our interoperability. So if someone who is working at the central station has to go work at the Weir station, the compartments are the same, the pump panel's the same. It's almost as identical as possible. Also with that, improved maintenance with DPW. It's going to be set up and designed, the same parts, the same equipment on the piece. So that's kind of the goal. We have a committee right now that's working and with many vendors, but that is the goal for the replacement of that vehicle.
What is the cost of that vehicle? Sorry.
No, go ahead. Councilor Susie?
What is the cost of that vehicle?
$935,000.
Okay, and what's the trade-in value of the old?
What we can get for it in metal, probably.
$26.95.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe there's much value in a 32-year-old.
Have we planned for this over the last few years, or is this just coming up now?
No, I think it's been discussed in the planning phases.
I can speak briefly to that. The master plan committee has seen it and put it on its, you were there, put it on its list as a priority for last few years, so.
I just wonder if there's any money been put aside for this.
Well, you know, this is nothing to do with the fire department, but we talked about, and the planning department, or the planning board, has started the process of making a recommendation that we have a fund, not just for fire engines, but for equipment and other things.
Planning board?
Yeah.
Why would the planning board get involved in
As
this?
part of the capital improvements committee, as a recommendation to me, to work on that moving forward.
I could see a good use for the, what do they call it, one of those funds that they get put aside all the time for,
Capital reserve?
no, the ones when people build homes or
Oh,
they.
fees,
Contingency?
The impact fees.
impact
Impact
fees.
fees,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, I'm just thinking $935,000, that's a bond right away, you know, plus every other ones that come in. I like the idea of putting money aside every year, okay?
I think that will be a strong recommendation,
Yeah.
Except
From the
that you're basically,
planning board.
you're holding,
I still
you're
get
holding taxpayers'
tough.
money unnecessarily that you can bond later on. It just, it, I mean, it's philosophical as whether you're just collecting tax money, which we're not gonna spend, it's not earning interest.
Well, it could earn
Or
interest.
even if it did earn interest, it's still, you're taking money out of their pocket for, again, out of current people that future people could be paying over the life of a bond. That's, I guess, just it's not a right or wrong answer, it's just
No.
philosophical,
I think most of the members of the planning board look at it as, what do we do if we buy a brand-new truck and 6 months later it falls in the lake or something and we have to replace it? It'd be nice if we had a fund rather than have to do it all at once.
but we usually borrow when we.
No, I understand.
To Henry's count, for large price items like this, it makes more sense. I mean, if you're saving up money for a car, a police car or something, that's a little different than, you know, almost $1 million.
Yeah, I'm sure
That's
that's-
No, I
the
mean,
type of
Henry-
item that should
Henry
be
is
bonded.
saying, since it's gonna be used over, let's say, the next 20 years, bonded for
That's a
the next 20 years.
1991, right? It's-
Right, so the taxpayers that are getting the use out of it are the ones that are paying for it,
Right.
not the previous
My hang-up
taxpayers.
is, I didn't
Right.
realize the planning board, I don't think the planning board is.
Well, that's because of
That's a
the
capital-
master plan,
They have a charter to make recommendations. but-
statutory requirement.
right, for the CIP.
'Cause I don't find anybody on there that's qualified, but that's okay.
Hey, wait a minute.
Right, but it comes to us before it's approved, so.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
they don't have any binding authority, but they have authority to make recommendations to you.
Okay, chief.
Continue on. Just a few other capital improvement projects.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
I know it's ideal to have two identical trucks, but is there one that's, you know, $650,000 that would do the trick?
So, no. The fire apparatus, just like everything, it's getting very, very, very expensive very quickly. There's new,
Can we get a 2005 instead of a 1991? I guess, you know, I'm just saying, you know, I've been trying to send this message all the way through the budget process here. I think, you know, some pretty significant tax increases have been had. What we're coming in as a budget, as a city, is way over one of our neighboring towns that's very well equipped as well. And I just think that, you know, some of these things that would be nice to have, that we could do a little bit less than nice and do what we really need to have. And, you know, this, to me, we really need a good fire engine. I don't underestimate the need to replace a 1991, but do we have to go, you know, brand spanking new to do that? And, you know, I just feel like, you know, you'd like to send so many people to training. Do we need to send 3 at 1 year? Can we do 1 or 2 a year instead of 3? Just saying, all these little things add up to, you know, having to spend, you know, I stand corrected, I thought it was 12%, it's 10 point something percent is the increase in the tax the amount to be raised by taxes, which is more than double the town of Concord, as an example.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I think what you'll
I think
find
the-
once he's done his presentation that he's way below the tax cap, so.
But I said the tax cap's 10%.
No, I'm saying way below.
Yeah, but just because there's a tax cap, excuse me,
No, go ahead.
does that mean that, oh, we could spend that much?
No, and that's what I'm saying.
what
He-
he's saying is
I'm
that
saying
it's-
he didn't. His is probably half of what the tax cap is.
And I'd like to leap in on equipment. On a much smaller scale, I can tell you about a night when I had a .357 revolver, and I got in a firefight in Guilford, and everybody else was carrying 9mm automatic weapons. I'd rather he got two trucks that are the same. If he can find one that's 5 years old, that's laid out the same, I'm okay with that. But I want you to get equipment that our firefighters can go from this truck to this truck without a learning process.
That's, yeah, I agree with,
I just, and Henry, I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily, I don't disagree, period. But at the same time, certainly you should look and see if we can find something, as long as it's the same as what you've got, it's a little cheaper, then let's do that. It just means some work on your part.
Sure, I can tell you that
If you can't find it, you can't find it.
I can tell you that the committee is looking not only at the vendor of the current one that we're trying to copy, but all sorts of different vendors as well. So the committee's doing a lot of hard work right now, and we'll definitely take that into consideration.
if you had to look out the next 5 years, is there, how many, or 5 or 10 years, is there an idea of how many more trucks you're gonna need, or things like that?
So on the CIP as well as the replacement of the ladder and the weirs, and so that's already been identified. So that would be something probably within that 5-year window that we might come forward with.
You think the ladder is within 5 years, or?
Yeah, it's potentially
And is that because of age, or is it because of functionality?
all the above.
Oh, okay, 'cause what I'm looking at is how high is the ladder, and are we building buildings that are gonna be tough to maintain if the ladder can't handle it?
Right.
That's what I'm,
I think the other thing you have to look at too with getting a used vehicle is what's your maintenance gonna cost versus what it's gonna cost if you have a new vehicle. And I think fire trucks probably be a hard find to find a fairly new fire truck, cause most of your departments will keep them.
I hope he makes the effort. If
Right, and
he
he-
makes
I'm
the
sure he
effort,
will.
can't come up
Yep.
with it, I'm on his side.
I'm sure he will. Yep.
Okay.
Chief?
Personal protective equipment, our turnout gear, we're in a process of trying to make sure everybody has compliant gear in 2 sets. Cancer rates are pretty out of control in the fire service. One of the recommendations is that everybody has 2 sets. One set gets dirty, gets washed, gets dried, you can immediately put on a new set. So that's the goal. The standard is 10 years by NFPA, and then they need to be replaced. So the way that it's laid out currently is this is a 4-year program that will bring everybody up to date and have 2 compliant sets of turnout gear. The last part is the escape system. It's something that the Laconia Fire Department has adopted over the past couple of years, so we're trying to maintain that, making sure that everybody has a proper escape system.
How expensive is this stuff, Chief?
So,
Just a ballpark, you don't need to.
sure. So right now, as far as the PPE goes, it's, over the last 4 years, it's gone up almost 50%. It's pretty expensive to outfit an entire person with gear, a helmet, pants. It's around $4,300
For two,
for one set.
for one set,
Correct.
Yep.
one set's how much?
$42.
Yeah.
$4,200.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Yeah,
But that's for the entire gear, including the helmet and everything.
correct. That's everything.
Right.
Is that, and this is just being curious on my end, is that from Globe, the local?
It is from Globe, correct.
Okay, we should ask them for a local discount.
I saw them the other day. I asked it, and I don't think it helped though.
Sorry?
They had a career day at the Hewitt Tech, and they were there presenting, and I did ask. I don't think it helped though.
And
Go ahead.
again, curious again, for equipment like this, whether it's for uniforms or anything else like that, and I commend your department, because I think they do a great job of this, so does the police department. But is there any way of getting any grants for any of this kind of stuff?
There is potential for getting grants for PPE.
Right.
This year, it was already kind of past time for the
I
grant. We did put
understand.
one in, but yeah, in the future, there's something we can definitely look at.
Because I didn't see it earlier, my negligence, you might say. I was looking at the capital outlay, 1.3 for the Weir's truck, $260,000 for the PPE. Engine 1, 935, Rescue 1. Is that an ambulance?
No, I don't think that was.
No. I don't know what Rescue 1 is. $325,000.
I think that's ambulance.
No, it's a light-duty rescue that they've used they retrofitted an old ambulance to make for water rescue equipment. What you're seeing on there is recommendations through the capital improvement, but not all of those went through our process for approval.
Okay,
Some of
okay.
those, there's only, I think, only 2 things on there that,
Right.
under fire that went through the approval process, which would be under the line mark manager.
Okay, and when you said on the 48 complete sets, what you're looking at, if it sounds right to me, you probably did something like, you put 65,000 from the manager, you're just putting money aside, or you're saying, let's buy so many suits a year?
Right, let's break it down as opposed to doing it all in 1 year, move it over a couple years.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, unless you can supplement that if there's PPE or grants or something else like that.
That would change what we look at in the future, yes.
Okay, because I saw an item also in the budget request for a new boat. Right? Am I correct? There was an item for looking at a new boat?
Not this year. It was presented to the CIP.
Okay, it wasn't a CIP, but I thought I saw something somewhere.
No, that is a future goal, is to replace the boat, but it's not this year. Yeah, it's not this
Okay.
year.
Okay, Chief.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just some other information about the department. We actively try to receive grants. This year, we received the Assistant to Firefighters grant for $28,500 that bought us some equipment, and the Walmart Community Grant, which was over $22,000 for EMS equipment. This past year, I've also put in for another Assistance to Firefighters grant and a fire prevention grant to hire a fire prevention person. And just some future goals for the organization. At some point in time, we'd like to have some additional staffing in fire prevention due to the increased development in the city. We applied for that grant this year. Hopefully that we'll get that. Improve interest in chief officer's position. There's a lack of that right now. And like we said, replacement of boat 1, and boat committee's been working hard on refining a specification that meets the needs of the community. And personally, I'd like to make sure that we complete a 5-year strategic plan to kind of guide our department and where we're going in the future. And that's all I have for my presentation. If there's any other questions.
Questions?
Yes.
I have
Council
another
Susan.
one. Okay. I see that there's been a request for extra duty coverage.
Yes.
You have a full staff, right? We're at a full staff right
We
now.
are unfortunately no longer at full staff right now.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Something happened.
Something did
Something's
happen.
happening everywhere.
All the time.
Yep.
That
After
was
today,
related
after
back to
today,
my
we'll have 2,
question.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I think both police and fire have done a above-average job of hanging on to employees. The fact remains, if you call Concord or Rochester or wherever, they're down 10 or 15. The New Hampshire State Police, who in 1968 posted a job at 8 in the morning, was gone at 4 in the afternoon. Today has over 80 open. The state police.
I'm just
just-
trying to ask the question so I get knowledge.
Sure.
No way am I, other than I wish there was another way around the capital improvements to be able to help you better, okay? You know, I'm fine with
Okay.
whatever's been done.
Thank you.
As long as we solve those emails I keep getting.
Working on it. I also put a document about ambulance replacement, just for your review. It's not in this year's budget, but we put a committee together just to look at all the different options that are possible for the replacement of our ambulance. It just, like fire apparatus, it is getting more and more expensive, and the build-out times are getting longer and longer and longer, potentially up to 3 years, which is incredible. I never thought that would happen. But that's the reality that we're in. So the committee did a lot of research. They made a lot of recommendations. There's a lot of data in there for you to look at, but it's information for you to hopefully get a chance to look at, kind of digest, and then have a discussion.
So, I got a quick question.
Yes.
On
Mr.
the,
Phelps, go ahead.
on the fire truck that we're looking to replace, you're looking probably 3-4 years down the road, or maybe even more?
But potentially, depending on the manufacturer, some aren't even taking orders anymore because of lack of staffing and materials. It's becoming very, very challenging. And the next thing that we're gonna run into is new EPA emission standards that are requiring changes in engines and motors that is gonna be very, very costly. So that's coming down the line shortly.
So how is that paid for? Do we have to pay for that up front, or is there, we pay a certain amount, and then when we receive the,
So there's a couple of different options depending on the vendor. Usually the RFP goes out, gets accepted, there's a down payment that takes place, and then you can pay the remainder at the completion of the build-out and acceptance of the piece of apparatus, but it can vary from vendor to vendor.
so we could end up with a deposit 1 year and actually not pay for the vehicle for another 3-4 years?
Chairman?
Yes,
Am I-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no,
Counselor Cheney.
I just wanted to point out, some of this is my fault, because I spoke with the chief at length about the ambulances and the conditions thereof. I've spoken to the manager, and I've also spoken to the finance director. Between fire trucks and ambulances, those are two of the more important things we send out to the citizens. And I think sending out an ambulance that's starting to rust around the wells and whatever is not something I want to be part of. So I asked the chief to put together some information about this. I also asked Glenn to look at whether we could lease fire engines, ambulances, I'm sorry. Maybe we can lease fire trucks, is that?
They
can
do
lease
lease
that, yeah,
purchases.
correct.
Why would
So-
we want to lease?
Right.
It's more expensive than
Right.
bonding.
It is, but it upfront is less cost. It's
I don't know.
spread out over a longer period of time.
Yeah,
Shorter, actually, on a lease.
I think we're better off with a bond,
And I'm fine with that.
financially, yes.
I just thought we ought to look at
But don't have
cost
to look.
comparisons
Yep.
to see. But I strongly feel that we need to look at what the chief has put out here and see what we can do
Right.
to get this equipment back in good shape.
Oh, I
mean,
agree, and,
Let us not forget, we bought a fire engine from Franklin. And
An
I can't
ambulance.
remember the last time.
An
I was
ambulance.
that
An
embarrassed.
ambulance.
Ambulance, I mean. I can't remember the last time I was that embarrassed. I hope, not that the piece of equipment wasn't a good piece of equipment at all.
I think it was a good buy.
Yeah, probably was, but it's still embarrassing that they've got something that they can afford to give to us for a good price or a bad price.
Yeah.
So, in any case, I want everyone to understand that I encourage the chief to do this, and I thank him for making the effort. He has a committee made up of folks at the fire station beside himself, looking at trying to come up with some answers. I hope as we go forward, we can find some answers to start dealing with these ambulances.
Yes.
Time on the fire truck is how long?
It depends on, it varies from vendor to vendor.
Let's say it's the one that you requested.
3 years.
How long, sir?
3 years?
3 years. So if we bought a fire truck today and you had to put $100,000 down and we got out a bond, we don't have to start that bond for 3 more years?
I'm not sure how the bond works.
We're not.
Yeah, we would have to work with their financing department. It's gonna be dependent based on manufacturer to manufacturer, what they would accept for payment, so
You're not taking possession for 3 years.
potentially, depending on the manufacturer, yeah.
Let's say roughly 3 years, okay? So does that mean you take the bond out now, but then you don't pull the money out of the bond for 3 years? What?
No, go ahead.
I'd have to check with the bond attorney on that particular case, but generally, there's a window in which you can only go back so far to reimburse yourself out of a bond issue. And I'm pretty sure the 3 years would be outside of that window.
Yes.
So whether you'd have to bond the full amount, or we could get some kind of maybe bond anticipation note, or another mechanism to get that done so that we're not bonding the full $935,000 and then sitting on $830,000 for 3 years. As much as with today's interest rates, I'd kind of like to do that. There's also restrictions on how long you can hold bond money without spending it.
That's right where I was going, was because interest rates and, you're not gonna take possession for 3 years. You don't have to leave that, that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, and I haven't had to answer that specific question in relation to this, but I could make the case that if we start the payments now, the $100,000, I'm not sure there's restriction on how long we can, drag those payments out, which is essentially then a 3-year break before we make the next payment.
Right, but it also gives you the opportunity that if the rates come way down, you can rebond it.
Most of the time, yes. And I say most of the time is if we go through the bond bank, which traditionally has very good interest rates, we lose a little bit of control over being able to rebond items because we're playing by their rules. And the last bond we did, I think actually we did go with the bond bank because they offered us such a good rate.
Right.
So, but that would be the choice of the council as to which way you want to go with that.
Okay, and like I said, the only reason I'm asking is that if you're looking to spend $1 million, but you're not gonna get possession for 3 years, how you weigh that out, that's all I was doing. Okay, because I was looking at present value and future value, and I would do that. The ambulance, when it comes to an ambulance, I like what Councilor Cheney came up with leasing, but then again, I agree with the city manager and Tony that, we might wanna just bond that out, and I wouldn't wanna
You're
wait.
gonna agree with Tony?
I asked the man.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm afraid that we're gonna come up, as you said, it's rusting around the wheel wells.
Yeah.
What in the hell are we waiting for?
Well, listen, the ambulance is 2 or 3 years out.
Yeah, I mean,
So if we have 1 or 2 ambulances that are hurting today, imagine what they're gonna be like in 3 years.
Exactly.
So we ought to get started on.
And also look at, what are we paying for maintenance right now?
Yep.
So also, I did want to ask, what is your percentage increase of your budget?
So for the fire side, it's on the operational aspect, not salaries and wages and benefits, it's 3.2. And then on the EMS side, it's 3.3.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kurt, I have a
I guess
question.
I don't come up with that number. Can you tell me how you calculated that?
So the total increase for the fire side is 9.6. That's salaries, benefits, all the operational items that are included in the budget, the individual lines. And then on,
Which line are you referring to?
I don't have
On page, what?
I don't have my.
50. Bottom of page 50,
Thank you.
the 23-24 manager versus the 22-23 budget. And it also is reflected on page, it's in the front.
The total fire budget's going up by almost $500,000, right?
right, that's, you said 9-point-something %, right?
For,
On page 1 as well, budget book number, page 1. It'll show 9.6 increase. Yep, go ahead.
I will say, to be fair to the chief, a good portion of that increase is with the internal service fund for vehicle repair and maintenance, which is calculated not by.
So that,
not
yeah,
by
that
the
wasn't,
chief.
that wasn't included in
Those
my
are
number.
numbers that we plug in based on what we get from the Public Works Department as far as repair and maintenance costs.
What is that?
I gotta get back to, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but the amount to be raised by taxes is over 10%. This is 9-point-something%.
And I'm not questioning that, I'm
Okay,
just
I'm just,
saying that.
I'm
that-
just saying is that,
Yep.
you know, a component can be up by 3.2%, but the section is going up almost 10%. Just, I appreciate that you did a very good job in putting together your budget, and I'm not
Sure.
complaining.
No, absolutely.
I'm concerned about the broader issue, which is, you know, people are gonna get fed up, and we're gonna end up with a much different complexion of a council and of spending patterns if we're coming in with a 10% plus, you know, increase in taxes.
Glenn, do you have that number that you plugged in from Public Works, that Public Works number?
It's at the bottom of page 50, the last two lines under where it says internal service fund. There's two components on it, one for vehicle repair and then one for vehicle replacement.
Okay, so your total, man, is probably around $302,000.
That is correct, that is correct.
Kurt, and that's my question is, and that's just not the fire department, it's in the rest of the budget. I don't understand vehicle replacement. I mean, I understand repairs, but I don't understand why there's $152,000 vehicle replacement
Yeah,
for what?
we have depreciation is included in that, as well as,
As the cost of new vehicles, that's spelled out on page 110.
Okay,
And then there's a formula as to how that's divided amongst departments, depending upon the overall value of our fleet as it's assigned to different departments. And as you can see, police and fire, of course, the two by far largest components of
Okay.
our fleet. So they get the heaviest hit on that.
And just, if I could, one more question.
sure, go ahead,
Just
Councilor.
in terms of the number of ambulances we need, is 5 the right number based on the number of calls that we do?
So we currently have 3 right now. We have 2 at Central Station and 1 at the Weir Station.
So 3 are in service.
3 are in service.
You got 5
right
that
now.
we're holding on to, according to,
No.
think
Those are
just the numbering of them.
Just
There
number,
is
there's an
no-
ambulance
there's
5.
There is no,
Correct.
no 1 and
Uh,
2 or whatever.
there's
Okay,
3 and a
A1,
4, yeah,
A1, A2, A5,
Yeah.
yes.
thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I'm set
That
on-
confused me
It
too.
does look that
That
way.
confused me too when I first started here, so.
So it's just that previous ambulances, their number was retired, so it's
yeah. There's not 5 vehicles.
like number 6 on the Celtics, there's not.
Yeah,
Okay, so, I have a question for Glenn.
Okay.
Glenn, you said it was roughly $302,000.
That's correct.
When I look at page 110, and I see, fire under, I see 186,000, and I see another fire number below of 65,000. I'm trying to come up with 302,000.
65,000 is the expense for the new vehicle.
Right? The line at fire above is 186,000 from the manager,
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that.
and the other number, right, you understand what I'm asking?
Absolutely. I'm gonna
Thank
get
you.
back to you on that,
Okay,
Counselor.
thank you.
Any other questions?
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
You are welcome.
Okay,
I can see approach, right?
You did fine, but he'll mess something up.
thank you, chief. Thank you, chief, great job. All right,
We weren't
next-
used to this good a job on budget present.
Your copy and paste
Okay, next on the agenda is Planning and Code. City Manager Biatti.
We have a lot of questions.
I can say I'll get back to you on that one.
There you go.
No, you're not in my space. I was wondering if you left. I was looking to see if you bailed out of here. All right, so with changes going on downstairs in planning and code, I wanted to give them their due for their budget presentation. So not only you can see that, but, our transparency of what we're doing here at City Hall and for each individual departments as we normally would. I won't get into any of the necessary specifics of what the transition looks like right now, because that's not what we're really talking about. But we did have our interim director start today, and we're starting to see wherever changes we need to be made. And going through any time an organization, whether it be the entire organization or individual, we certainly have a transition period, and we want to make sure we meet all that. Before I get started, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the planning and code staff, who have done a great job downstairs with that transition. One of the first things I've talked to them about was making sure that our customers' needs are met as a priority, and they've continued to do that. Under code enforcement, they have a shared director with planning. 30% of it is paid through what would be the code budget. They have a building inspector who goes out and does mostly the code inspections throughout the city, a housing inspector, and an administrative secretary. Responsibility would be their building permits, doing certificate of occupancies, demolition permits, electrical permits, housing complaints, and multi-inspection sites, these plus any type of inspection that may come up during Motorcycle Week or a specialty event, anything like that, they get out and do through this department. And I'm gonna talk about the housing complaints in just a second, a little bit more, because I think you'll, Counselor.
Oh, go ahead.
No, in a minute, I know you wanna hear that, so. This is in their budget book. This is nothing I came up with. This is in what was presented to you in your budget book. Building permits over the last 5 years have gone up 46%. The value of those permits have gone up 112%. And we see those in the operational numbers that I give you each month. The inspections performed over this time period is a 59% difference. And why I put difference instead of increases, they do fluctuate in there a little bit, but that's just a comparison of what it was like in 18 versus now, or last year. The code side of the budget has increased 7.6% this year, of just over 14,000. 10,000 of that are in the salary increases, so there was very limited in the rest of the budget for increases, and there's no new initiatives in code enforcement, budget-wise. For the planning department, again, they have a shared director with their code enforcement. 70% is in there, so if you look in your salary section towards the back of the book, as we talked about for comparisons, that's where you'll see the 70 versus 30%. They have an assistant planner, which has not been filled right now. We're in the process of working on that as well. Two planning technicians, one that handles zoning and one that handles their conservation, as well as an administrative secretary there. They provide guidance and technical support for planning board, and many of you are on these boards and commissions, so you understand this, but for presentation purposes, the guidance and technical support for the planning board, zoning board of adjustment, the technical review committee, which is the first group that sees any new plans that come through, and water's on there, sewer's on there, fire, police, public works, so they can put their recommendations and 2 cents in very early, so anybody who's coming in as a developer or an individual contractor knows what they need. Same thing is done with Motorcycle Week, Technical Review Committee, special events for all of our large and special events we do, as well as the 3 commissions, Conservation, Heritage, and Historic District Commissions, which obviously a lot of you sit on some of these boards, as well as our Capital Improvements Committee, which we discussed a little bit tonight, who makes recommendations. They send me my list of recommendations, is what I build my capital budget requests off of to present to you. The budget went up 41,000 this year in the planning side. Of that, 14,000 is salary increases, and 20,000 of that is money that's not coming out of the tax rolls. It is, I took 20,000 from the Invest in H money that we received with the intent of adding it to the outside contracts line for planning for purposes of state school redevelopment. So if we need to reach out to a civil engineer to ask them questions and they're gonna charge us money to do that work, that's what this money is there for. I'm not expecting a huge increase needed this year, as it's still gonna be relatively early in the phases. And what we're seeing is all the work we're trying to do with them, we've been able to answer through what our departments do. But that's gonna end at some point, and we're gonna need some special technical expertise. The $20,000 admittedly is a number pulled out of the air a little bit. We don't have any RFPs out or anything like that. We know that it'll get us started, and we'll be able to start working on that project as needed. We are working still with the accessory dwelling unit and short-term rental ordinances, which I'm working on with that, so we can get those to you shortly to complete. I know they've been a long time coming. Hazardous building, which many of you have seen, Chief Jubert is working on that. That will be coming forward to you within the next meeting, at the most 1 to 2 meetings. The same with the other two, so we can start working on some of those burned out, dilapidated, rundown buildings that we need to make some changes on, that we're considering as hazardous or dangerous buildings. There's been a lot of questions about our demolition permitting. I know this council has asked that question, if we are doing things correctly, and so we're working on that with legal. And then we're also working with them on trying to strengthen the procedures to lessen our time that it takes to enforce some of our housing issues. And we've talked about this. We just had a meeting with legal the other day about a property. We've shown what we've done. They said, yes, you're doing everything exactly as you're supposed to do, everything correctly. And now we'll take it from here and move it through the legal process. And the first question I asked is why, we need to make A to Z faster. And we're doing everything we're supposed to, we're doing everything correctly, but can we speed that up a little bit and make some of these changes? Because I know you hear it, I was asked just, last week about one. How do we make this a little bit better? So we've been working with our legal department on that, so we can try to move this forward. And this is all initiatives that, will go on to the new planning director to make sure that they are continuing as well when we get to that point. I said 10 minutes, I think I was 8, so.
Go ahead, Counselor
You only
Susie.
have 2 minutes for questions.
Yeah.
Just a question back to the state school discussion, okay? Anything that's done there, will that also come under the impact fees?
Yes. Yep.
No late updates or anything else?
Nothing I can publicly talk about at this point, other than I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's continuing to move on forward, and they're continuing to work with us very closely, and we've been very pleased with how the process is moving along. I know that sounded a very political answer, but that's the truth. It is,
And the governor said they're all idiots. I don't understand.
That's right.
Any other questions? Counselor Cheney.
Not a question, well, I guess it is a question. In the course of bringing on a new director, I hope you spend some time looking at code enforcement, because I'm not sure, I'm talking about manpower-wise, maybe I'm wrong, maybe we're fine, but I really would like you to, spend some time looking at, are we enforcing code appropriately and in a timely fashion? I know you know that.
Yeah, no, I think timely is one piece, and then, making sure we're not just being reactionary. If we can be proactive, and so we will, all that will umbrella under how we move through the process for filling the position.
A lot of things can stop early if we get there early.
Mhm.
But when they get 3/4 of the way through their project, then have code enforcement show up, it's.
No, I think, I do know our building inspector, and I think the housing inspector goes with him at a time, but I know our housing inspector is out on sites very, very early
Yep.
and through the process. So they're hitting the steps as they go along, as opposed to, catching something at the end to find out the foundation had a problem.
That's the
So-
thing, the ones that we've been told about. I'm talking about the ones that they forget to ask us for a permit.
Well, yeah, I don't know, yeah, I mean, those, I hope those aren't happening too often, but,
Otherwise,
yeah.
but I have my concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, council. Unfortunately, the minutes of the non-public were sealed before, as I understand it, before the city clerk could record or
Before I
make
got the answers to those questions, yes.
Pardon?
Before I got the answers to those questions.
questions, right. So,
Can
We
this
need
be
to re-
discussed in public, or is?
They're just motions.
Okay.
okay.
Do you guys remember the
All right.
motions?
Okay, first, who made the motion to return to public session? Does anybody recall?
I think I did.
It was Felch? Okay. Council Felch, I'm sorry. And the second was Council Cheney?
Yep.
Does anybody recall what time we reconvened in public session? I think it was just about 8:30, wasn't it?
Sounds right to me.
Yeah, I was right around there.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
if it would help, I can look at the security cameras to see when you left the building.
Okay. That would be fine too, but for right now, I'm just writing. Okay, if you'd do that, Glenn, I'd appreciate that. Motion to seal the minutes. I think it was Counselor,
I think I did.
okay.
I said earlier, it was for like 6 months, something like that.
No,
That's written on
30
the
days.
outside. I
30
have it.
days.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we're gonna find out about it. Soon, you know.
And we adjourned at
I think Counselor
8:35. I know we weren't very long.
It was quick.
Okay, so I'm gonna say 8:40. Okay, is there anything else to come before the council? Seeing none? Okay, we're adjourned at,
how's that pay raise thing though? I'm
which,
kidding.
which people are you talking about?
I'm kidding.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay, we're adjourned at 7:55, thank you.
Thank you.
Henry,
Yes.
if you could just a second.